Hi there, welcome to QA Box and this new series about mastering XPath for UI automation testing. Okay, so we are going to now see the major differences between CSS and XPath. So before we move on, both are important, and therefore, as testers, people who are doing the UI automation, they have to learn both XPath and CSS, right? So if you go to my channel YouTube/CQA Box Let's Test playlist, there is a playlist element selector, and in that I've created this video through which you can learn all the important and required CSS selectors within 17 minutes, and in fact more than that. All right, so go and watch that out. So the next thing is, let's understand the difference. So what are the advantages of XPath? So the advantages are you can traverse the DOM both in the forward and in the backward direction, means you can go to the child node from the parent node and vice versa. But in case of CSS, that's its limitation. You just can move only forward, you can't go back. So reverse lookup is not possible in CSS. What is the other advantage of XPath? So writing XPath is more flexible than CSS Selector. People can learn XPath quickly than CSS Selector. Now, what are the advantages of CSS? CSS selectors are fast in traversing the DOM, since most browsers like Chrome and Firefox are tuned for better performance with CSS selectors. Okay. Now, another advantage is that it's available into all the browsers, right? So all browsers can understand CSS selectors, but I does not have a native XPath engine. That's a limitation, right? So what Selenium does is, then Selenium injects its own XPath engine for compatibility of its API, thus losing the advantage of using native browser feature. The other disadvantage that I feel at times is that uh, we have to use text to identify the element node only when we don't have any other option. Okay, and people use this text function like crazy, and what happens is, if you, I've already mentioned, I've already talked about it, that if you are working on a dynamic data, that will keep on changing, which means that you are not uh, creating a framework which is data agnostic, right? In your scripts will fail because it may find data at times, and at times the data is updated and hence not working. Also, like test, as you know, that works on the exact text. Even if a part of the text is being changed, still it will not work. And at times people use contains like blindly. So what happens is, it is going to test only a part of the string. So earlier that string is available, let's say, into just one control, and till the time you have executed it, let's say the 10th time, there are more such data containing that string. Now your test is expecting that only one element to be returned and that you are performing action on that, but now you get more than one. So be very careful when you go for this text function and contains in XPath. Do not rely too much on these functions. Make sure that you identify the controls uniquely, right? You learn to create dynamic XPath and CSS by your own. I'm not saying don't use XPath. At times, XPath is the only solution we have. So it's very important we learn XPath. But make sure that if you have other components available, if I talk about, let's say Selenium, there you have the ID, right? You have the name. So you have the tag name, of course, return more than one element. But if you have those things available, just go for that. All right, and start practicing CSS, because now they are new tools even which developers are using, for example Cypress. So by default Cypress offers support only for CSS. Yes, you can add a plugin into that, and then you can write your XPath as well, but out of the box there has to be reason why they're only supporting CSS. Okay, so that's about XPath versus CSS, and I'll say XPath and CSS because both are required. All right, thank you so much.